I witnessed a murder 2 weeks ago. Or at least I think I did. I hope I did. The thing is, I know what I saw. This wasn't one of those moments where you see a fight or a car accident, and you think someone might have been killed, but you're really not sure. I did CPR, and I saw the police leave with a body bag, but it was ruled a suicide. I say I hope it was a murder, because if it wasn't, it means I'm going crazy. But maybe being crazy is actually better than being right. I'll let you decide that, I guess. I'll just tell you what I know, what I saw. I work as a veterinarian at a small clinic in a medium-sized city. Our prices are relatively good, and we have competent techs and assistants. As a consequence, we stay pretty busy, in spite of there being 2 other clinics within a 10-minute drive, with quarantine prompting a surge in pet adoptions. I'd say that we've been very busy for the past 14 months or so. I don't usually have time for lunch most days, not a proper one in any case. Between walk-ins, finishing carts, and surprise abscesses, there just usually isn't enough time. Fortunately, my clinic happens to be located across the street from a Starbucks, so when I have a free 15 minutes in the early afternoon, that's usually where I go. That's where it happened. The murder. The place was packed when I came in, so after I ordered, I decided to go to the bathroom. It seemed an efficient use of limited time. The men's room was occupied, so I stood in the sort of vestibule near the 2 bathroom doors and waited. 30 seconds later, I realized that I had to pee a lot more urgently than I had originally thought. So with the men's room locked and occupied, I decided to try the ladies. I knocked once, no answer. I knocked again just to be safe. It was after hearing silence the second time that I pressed my ear to the door, just to make absolutely sure I wasn't going to accidentally walk in on some poor quiet lady, who would then shuffle into the clinic 10 minutes later with her dyspeptic Pomeranian. It turned out that I did hear something, some sort of movement, and then a whisper. Please, don't. I knocked a 3rd time. Hello, are you alright in there? There was a sputtering cough, and then a faint, help. That was enough for me. I turned the knob, and to my surprise, the door was unlocked. Now, with the please don't and the help, a part of me expected to walk in on an assault. Another part of me is disgusted with myself for this, but I wish it would have been that. Instead, I saw a young woman on her knees, and a man standing above her, pouring bleach down her throat with a bright red funnel. The acridity was so suddenly powerful that I gagged as the chemical reek of chlorine washed over me. He was holding her by the neck with one hand and pouring with the other. I still remember the glug-glug of the bottle, the haphazard splatters on the floor, and her bloodshot eyes as they looked up at me, helpless and pleading. It was horrible, but even more than that image, I remember him. He was wearing a tan trench coat, covered in a patchwork of light-colored splotches. The rest of his clothing either wasn't evident or didn't register with my brain, but the bottle I remember distinctly. It wasn't Clorox or any other recognizable brand. It was a white jug, slightly dingy, with a label that just said Bleach in big black letters. I also remember his face. That face is burned into my memory, and I have described it no less than a dozen times to the dubious police officers, friends and family alike. I know what I saw. His face was pale, not ghostly, just not tan. His features were all perfectly normal. His skin, though, was absolutely flawless, unnaturally flawless. I've seen Photoshop models with more irregularities in their faces than the man in that bathroom. In fact, His skin tone was so even that it gave his face the impression of two-dimensionality. He just stared straight at me as he poured with an almost pleasant expression. His eyes were warm, and his lips arched into the slightest smile. She struggled, flailed, and he calmly poured. Glug, glug, glug. His expression did change once, as his fingers dug into the flesh of her neck. I watched in dumbfounded horror, and he winked at me. I hate myself for gawking as long as I did, though I doubt extra haste on my part would have done the woman any good. I think a few seconds might have passed before I shouted for help. It seemed like much longer, but I know it wasn't. An EMT pronounced her dead at the scene, though I had to check for a pulse and perform CPR before they arrived. I had figured that aspiration, breathing bleach into her lungs, was the cause of her cardiac arrest. Bleach toxicity just doesn't kill that quickly. At least, not in cats and dogs. The only bleach they found in her body, though, was in her stomach. 4.5 liters, nearly a gallon. After some investigation, the police cleared me as a suspect. An employee of the Starbucks had left a bottle of bleach in the ladies' room next to the toilet. They couldn't explain why there were only 2 liters missing from the bottle, but it was enough for them to assume she had killed herself by drinking it. A camera outside of the bathrooms showed only the woman entering before I knocked and then called for help. Afterward, and I don't know if this was a breach in police protocol, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but one of the detectives called me. In the 2 days since the murder, he had spoken to the woman's sister before conclusively ruling the death as a suicide. Apparently, the woman had been admitted to a psychiatric institution 6 months prior, and had previously expressed suicidal ideation. He was trying to be helpful with that call, I'm sure, and ordinarily I'd be thrilled to know that I was officially not a murder suspect, but I've been too distracted to feel any real relief. For the past 2 weeks, every night between 8 and 9 p.m., I smell bleach. I've gotten rid of the 1 bottle I had in the laundry room, but even if I'm outside walking my dog or at a restaurant, I smell it. A caustic, sickening, choking wave of bleach. Apparently, I'm the only one, and proving that you smell something that others don't isn't exactly an easy task. 2 days ago, I got more concrete proof, though I wish I hadn't. I awoke in the morning to find a pair of pale handprints on my duvet. They didn't wash off of the fabric. Then last night, as I was getting out of the shower, I heard a light tapping on my bathroom door as the 8 p.m. stench began to rise. My dog is my only roommate, and he was asleep in his crate downstairs, but I heard it clearly. Tap, tap, tap. All I could do was just stare at the door, terrified, and try not to retch at the pungent smell squeezing in around me. Tap, tap, tap. My head swam in the phantom fumes as I tried desperately to stay on my feet, and then I heard a voice on the other side of the door whisper, "Hello? Are you alright in there?" An hour later, when I finally summoned the courage to step out, the only thing I found was a trail of pale footprints crossing my carpet towards the wall. Look, I know what I saw. I know this all must sound crazy, but I'm not going crazy. The sickening smell is maddening though, and now I think I know what's coming. The detective who called me before called me again today. The woman from the bathroom. Her name is Evelyn Wright. She voluntarily admitted herself to a mental hospital because of paranoid delusions and olfactory hallucinations. A month before that, she had called the police 2 counties over and gave a statement about a man with perfect skin drowning a child in a public restroom with a bottle of bleach.